Welcome to Rome. This is The Bittersweet Life with Katie Sewell and Tiffany Parks. Hello, this is The Bittersweet Life. I'm Katie Sewell.
I'm Tiffany Parks.
Tiffany in Rome, Katie in Seattle. And today we're going to do some reflecting on an episode that Tiffany did solo during one of her Bittersweet Moments. It was episode Bittersweet Moment 245. Titled, The Best Travel Moments Are Not on a Checklist. It aired on May 27th, so if you haven't heard it, go back and listen to that. We're going to be commenting on that today. But Tiffany, I'm going to toss it to you to give us at least a little reminder of what that episode was about in case people don't want to listen back.
What? Go listen back, people. But if you're like on a bike, and first of all, you shouldn't have your earphones in on a bike. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, you're on a bike. And you can't get to your phone to change the episode. Brief recap is that I have noticed more and more, I mean, it's something that's been going on for a long time, but it's just getting worse and worse, that the standard way of traveling these days is to kind of have a checklist, whether it's written down or just in your mind. You have this sort of list of places that must be seen and foods that must be eaten and things that must be done, and uber specific, like very, very specific. Not like I want to have a really authentic Roman pizza. No, it's like I have to have pizza at this place and I have to have this specific pizza there, and I have to go to this other place to have a maritozzo. It has to be this particular cafe, and that's the only place where you're going to get the true experience, and you have to go to, and so it's part that this is the only way to do it. You've got to do this, otherwise you haven't seen Rome. And the other side of it, it's two, it's like a forked tongue of nasty travel. The other side is the sort of TikTok trend, I've got to get this particular photo, or I've got to see this particular thing, and not just see it, but I've got to get a photo of it.
Right.
And it's, again, very, very specific things that are great things. I'm not saying that they're not worth seeing, but they've just become so popular because of these trends that they're not enjoyable anymore because the line is ridiculous. And it whenever I go to these places, I just I feel like, oh my God, these people are. I hate to say it because it sounds bad, but I just feel like these people are sheep. They've just been told to come here, and they're here, and they don't care how long the line is. They will wait because they've got to do this thing. So that's the background, and we can unfold it from here because I think there is a lot to be said. But I mean, I just feel like, and I said it to I was leading a tour last week, and I had this very, it's strange because the people who come on my tours generally they aren't into this type of travel, and I can commiserate with them a little bit. And I said to this man on my tour, I said, I think people just like to line up now. And he said, yeah, I think they do. And it's something that I mean, who likes to line up? Lining up is awful. It's boring. You waste your time. It's miserable to line up. But I cannot think of any other explanation than that people like to do it.
I don't think people like lining up. I mean, I don't really know exactly. I mean, I definitely have had the experience of getting an idea fixed in my head of something that I want to do. I do think that part of the problem is the photos, because it slows everything down. It's not that you just want to see it, it's that you have to get the perfect photo within it. I was trying to find somewhere in Bali. So I, as you know, I'm kind of notoriously, when you were talking about this and you were saying, if people would stop doing this kind of travel where, they see something and they're like, oh, I must do this. I must do it this way. I must have that photo. I must blah, blah, blah. That travel would become better for all of us because we could happen into different experiences in different ways and not encounter these crowds. Because I really don't think people like lining up. I'm sure everyone comes around the corner and goes, ugh, but they still were like, but I really want to do this. Everybody says it's a great thing, so I'm going to just be patient and wait here and do it. And hopefully the experience will pay off. Because I kind of notoriously am an under planner when I go places, where sometimes I'll get invited to go somewhere and I don't even research anything ahead of time, so I'm learning on the ground. And recently, a year or two ago, I know we talked about it on the show. My sister Sarah randomly had an opportunity to go to Bali, and she had a free place to stay. And she's like, if you can afford to like get yourself on a plane there, we got a free place to stay. So what do you think? Do you want to come? And we're like, oh yeah, this is a great opportunity. But I went to Bali with like basically no research done, like none. You know, I might have read a little bit about the Balinese history and, you know, the people that live there, but that was it. You know, I didn't look up any tourist sites. I didn't look up anything about like what you might do there, you know. And I remember being in the car coming in from the airport, being driven by the guy whose house we were staying in. You know, he was part of the hospitality crew. And he's like, well, what kind of stuff, what do you guys want to do while you're here? You know, and I'm sure people get in the car and are like, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do this, I want to do that. And we were just like, I don't know, like, what would you recommend? You know? What kind of stuff could we do? We were just like so unprepared. And so in a way, we kind of handed over part of our trip to this guy. You know, he would name a few things and you're like, oh, well, that sounds kind of interesting. And then, or he'd name a couple of other things. And you'd be like, oh, no, that doesn't really sound very much fun. But we were just like walking in blind to all these experiences, and some of them, and I felt like most of them were so touristy. Now, like one of them, not a lot of tourists were there. It was walking around like a rice field plantation, which we thought sounded pretty cool. And it was cool, but it also felt like a cultivated tourist experience, you know, where you're walking through a rice field, but oh, there just happens to be a giant swing here. Does anybody want to get on the giant swing? You're like, what? The giant swing? Like, you know, what's this doing in the middle of a rice field? You know, I definitely felt like it was trying to catch those Instagram moments, you know, as part of it, which for me made it feel not as interesting. But one place he took me, and I was just trying to look it up while you were talking and I couldn't find it. And I'm sure everybody who's listening who's been to Bali knows this particular place. But there's like something, I think it's called something like the Gateway to Heaven. It's like these two.
I think I've heard of that.
Yeah, ornately carved arches, for lack of a better word. They're not really arches, they're like pillars, but they're very ornate and they're gorgeous. And the view behind them is insane, just gorgeous. And so, of course, everybody wants to have their picture between the two pillars with this incredible view behind them. And we showed up blindly and they offered us a number. Like we got out of the car and they're like, here's a number for you to get in line with to get your picture taken at the arches or whatever. And we're like, what? And it was something like they gave us like, let's imagine number 240. And when we got up there, they were on number like 34. So if we had wanted to do this, how long were we going to be there? Like 6 hours, 7 hours? Because everybody was taking a long time to get their picture taken. But what irritated me the most about it was we still like it had these beautiful temples behind it that you couldn't go into, but you could climb the stairs of. So we climbed the stairs and we looked out at the view from the top of the stairs. But what was irritating was because now there was this line of people trying to get this photo, is we couldn't walk up to that cliffside and look out at that view. Because this person's trying to get the perfect shot, they were keeping everyone away from that edge. So it's almost like, and that person's not even facing the view. But see, I blundered into that situation by a lack of planning. Like I would have never, if I had known this is where everybody goes to try to get their photograph taken, I don't think I would have said, well, let's not do that.
Yes, but how sad that you would have avoided it because it's a beautiful place. Like it's a type of place that probably should be seen, you know, and everybody who goes to Bali should get to look at that and should get to, that's the whole point of travel, is that we get to see things. We get to see things that we've never seen and that we can't find where we are. And you travel so that you can see things, and that we're losing that. And it's become, we travel so that we can be in a picture with things. And just, I mean, the encapsulation of that is that all of these people are turned away from the view. And the people who actually want to look at the view are kept away from it because of all the people who want their picture taken. And we've touched on this before. We've talked about it. I've mentioned that it seems like, and I could Rome, but substitute any city, substitute Paris, substitute Bali, whatever it is. People don't go there anymore to see it. They go to have it as a backdrop. They don't want to be in Rome. It's about them being in Rome. It's about Rome as the backdrop of their own personal movie. It's a shame that you would have, if you had the advanced knowledge, stayed away from such a beautiful place, which should be open to all. And it should be open particularly to people who care to see it.
Well, I
Um,
do feel like if we stopped catering to it, and I don't know how you would do this worldwide because everybody's making money off this too. That's the other thing is the reason why it can be catered to so well is like the people who are there managing the pictures and stuff, they're making money off of it in some way, you know? But I mean, fine if we wanted to say, okay, yeah, sure, you can get your picture taken between the arches, but there's going to be a whole bunch of other people standing around the sidelines, you know, because we're not going to keep the other people from seeing the view. Maybe that's a compromise. I'm not sure.
I mean, that's as it should be. I mean, I was in the Pantheon a couple of months ago. I was taking photographs for my new voice map Pantheon tour. And now the photos aren't that important. They don't have to be perfect, but you don't want them to look nice. And I was trying to take a photo of like a central photo, which you could see some of the ceiling and the high altar and sort of the center. And there were these people sort of standing right in the middle, sort of like kind of right straight front and center of where I wanted this picture. Now, obviously, if there's people in the background, I was like, who cares? You know, they're so far off. There was just these, like 3 or 4 people like right there. And I was standing there and I was a little bit frustrated, but I was like, they have every right to be there. They have every right to stand there as long as they want to. And the fact that I want to get a picture with as few people as possible, that is secondary.
Mm-hmm.
And I would never ask them to move. I just wouldn't. It doesn't seem reasonable. Now, if I'm taking a picture, even in front of the Pantheon, like with my family, I will wait. Like I take pictures of tourists all the time when I'm doing tours, and I try to wait until there's as few people right around them as possible. But I just don't believe in asking people to move. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, where do you get off? You're in a public place. Everybody has a right to be here. I don't think that they should allow, this blocking off of the site just to get these photographs. And it's so stupid because now we have AI, although you know how I feel about AI, but it's out there. And everybody knows that with a click of a button, you can get rid of people from photographs. It's like the easiest thing in the world now, and you can't even tell.
Mm-hmm.
So why are we ruining the vacation experience and the travel experience for all of these people to prevent something that's easily, preventable after the fact?
Well,
It's just,
maybe that'll be the change that comes, with the advent of AI and easy picture editing will be that it becomes less precious. It was funny
I
because
hope so.
living in Rome, when I lived in Rome for that year, all those years ago, one thing that changed me about living in Rome was that used to be like if people are like getting a photo taken as a family that you would pause and wait for them to get their picture and then you'd walk through. But in Rome, that's happening so much all around you that if you paused and waited for people to take photos, you just you'd be late for everything. So
Yeah, you
you just
wouldn't get
start like
anywhere.
walking straight through it because you're just like I still need to go,
Yeah,
and you can
for
take
sure.
another picture. It's not like you're going to develop the film and find out later that I was in the background. You're going to look at it and be like, let's take
Exactly.
one more. So,
Exactly. It's like the more that photography and all the technology around photography editing advances, the more precious people are becoming about like, I have to get the shot exactly right and the light has to be perfect and nobody can be there and you have to do it. And it's like, can't you do this all post-production? Like, why? I mean, why are you wasting your entire trip? Honestly, if I went to a place like you're talking about, I would be tempted to go there, see the site, walk up and look out because you can't stop me. What are you going to do? Arrest me? You're going to kick me out of the site? I mean, it can't be illegal to get in someone's photograph, right? So look at the site, not for an excessive amount of time, but enjoy it, soak it up. And then if I had the technological skills, which I don't, but I could probably figure it out. It can't be that hard these days. Find a perfect picture of that site and just Photoshop my little self onto it. Why not? Why can't people just do that? I mean, it's not to say you shouldn't go to the site. You should also go. But if it's about the photograph, then it's not about the place. And I don't think it's quite the same when you're actually taking a photograph of a place. I can see, I'm not a huge photography nut, but I can see how someone who is, it's very important to them that even if it's something that everybody's seen and everybody's photographed, they want to get their photograph of it. I get that,
hmm
because it is an artistic expression. But that somehow is different than like, no, 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 no. I want to be the star.
yep.
I want to be the star, and then I want to have this backdrop.
Yeah. And well, but I mean, even if you were at that site and you walked up to look at the view, And we're like, oh, screw these people, I'm going to walk up and look at the view. I mean, you still aren't going to enjoy it as much as you would,
No,
because you're conscious
no.
of these people who are like, ugh, waiting for you to get done looking at the view.
Okay, well, let's pause for a moment and take a quick break.
I want to go to your other point before we're out of time, which was kind of that if we're doing a lot of scripted travel these days, that the like real pleasure of the unscripted moments that you were talking about, that you were talking about how you waited in this long line to eat this particular thing and you were like, I didn't even really like that thing, but now I know, whatever. And then you have those moments where you happen upon something and that becomes the great evening. And that kind of like impromptu travel was especially easy, I guess, when people couldn't look up stuff on the internet and you just had to wander around until you found a restaurant that looked decent enough. But when I think about my most memorable moments when I'm traveling, they're almost always accidental like that. Like I can remember going to Florence. I was there with my parents. I was living in Rome at the time. We decided to go take a 2-day trip up to Florence. Didn't plan it again, like made no plan past what hotel we were staying in. Didn't buy tickets to any museums foolishly. Like basically we're there just being like, whoa, what are we doing here? But I went out on a walk by myself later in the evening when everybody else wanted to like kind of batten down the hatches and be in bed and stuff. And I went out for a walk and I remember walking down the street and hearing organ music pouring out of a church. And I'm sure I've mentioned this on the show before, but I just love this moment. And of course, the church, it's just open, it's wide open, except it was completely dark inside. But it was full of people sitting quietly in the dark. And this incredibly experimental organ player, clearly classically trained, but was definitely coming up with his own thing, was up in the loft, just playing the organ with his like entire heart and body. And everyone was sitting in the dark, just listening to this guy play. And it was just an astounding thing to wander into, and I don't even know if I could have looked that up. Perhaps it was something he does every Tuesday. I have no idea, but I think of that when I think about Florence and all the beautiful things there are to see in Florence, including some of the museums I've now gotten to go into. My favorite moment is still that moment when I encountered the unexpected organ player.
Yeah, I wonder if going forward, if we continue on this trajectory, those things will not be common anymore. It will be very rare for people to have those experiences. Because I feel like the more information that we have available to us, the more we overscript our lives and, overplan and, come up with these lists. I have to go to dinner here. I have to see this one thing in this church. I have to, and I want to see the Colosseum. I want to see this. But like I said in that mini episode, there's a difference between this thing is really special to me. Like I love ancient Roman archaeology, and so I want to see the Colosseum. Or Gladiator was my favorite film growing up, so I've got to see the Colosseum. As opposed to, oh, that's the top, that's one of the top 10 sites. I've got to go there. Now I understand when you're in a smaller town and there's not as much to see, like you're going to want to go and see the big things because there's only a handful of them. But when you're in Rome, a city like Rome, or other places that have a lot to offer, Paris, New York, you don't get to see everything. So maybe choose based on like really truly what speaks to you. And in that case, you do need to do some planning. So I think you got to have a happy balance between the planning and the deliberate openness. Because if you don't do any planning, then what happened to you in Bali can happen, where you just end up, okay, you trust somebody else who maybe they think you want to see those big top classic Instagram sites, and so they take you there. When maybe there was this temple that you would have loved way more if you had done a little tiny bit of research and seen a photo of it or something. It's not a bad thing to have things that you really, really want to see. It's just what's the motivation for wanting to see that place? There's got to be something beyond just Instagram told me to go there.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I don't think we'll ever get to a point where that is the only thing people are doing. I know a lot of people are doing that now, but there's always going to be people that are also walking past the line and being like, no thanks,
Yeah. I do want to push back on that line thing. So I don't think it's that people enjoy the actual act of waiting in line. So I kind of oversimplified what I said. I think what it is a lot of people love the idea of I'm going to get the best. This
Yeah.
is whatever this is, it's the best. This sandwich shop, look at the line. It's got to be the best. Or
Mm-hmm.
look at this gelateria. The line is so huge. It's definitely the best. So I'm going to wait so that I can say I had gelato here.
Mm.
When the truth is, I promise you, in Rome, there is no best place to do anything.
Mm.
There is no best gelato in Rome. Like Claudia and I were talking about the other night. I truly believe one of the best gelateria in Rome is in my neighborhood. No tourist ever goes there. It's way too far away. It's in the middle of, this kind of, really uninteresting, outskirt neighborhood. And there's no reason to go there.
Mm-hmm.
Zero for
Mm-hmm.
tourists. And it has one of the best gelateria. And we think we are liking it even more than La Fata Morgana these days. That is how good it is.
Which is the place that Tiffany makes everybody go to in
Well,
Trastevere, by the way.
I don't make everybody
I'm
go
just giving
because
them the
I'm against that.
context.
But yes, I recommend it highly, and it's near where we stay. And so I always say, if you want a good, unusual gelateria, go to this place. But there is no one place. Every foodie in Rome, every local food expert in Rome is going to have a different opinion on what's the best coffee in Rome, what's the best gelato in Rome, what's the best pizza in Rome, what's the best pasta in Rome. Every single person is going to have a different best place, which means that there is not one best place. So please do not waste your time being like, I've got to go here. Stanley Tucci told me this is the best pasta in Rome. No, there is no best pasta in Rome.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's my piece.
It's good. It's good. And sometimes, like, perhaps if there is a best, but a best in what way? Compared to what? That's always the hard part, too. Sometimes the best isn't discovered yet, and you happen to discover it. I mean, I think people look for guidance because we've all had those meals where you're traveling, you're tired, and you wander into a place that is terrible. Like, we've all had that. And so you're like, I don't want to go in blind. If you have a friend who can be like, the only place to eat if you're near the Vatican is Arlu, which is what we've done, right? Which is what we do for our guests as well, is, it's great to have guidance.
Yeah,
It's
but
just like,
I will push back against that, even though we do say that. We do say that. I have discovered some places recently near the Vatican that are good. And there isn't only just one place. I mean, that's our favorite place. I've been going there for years. Literally, I've been going there for almost 20 years,
yeah,
probably 20 years now.
yeah.
And it's good and it's affordable. But I have also discovered some other great places in that area. So there is literally no one place. That is like my hill that I'm going to die on.
Well, and things are always changing too.
Yes, and you know what happens is a lot of times places get really popular, sometimes for good reason because they are really good. And then the quality suffers because they get this influx of people. And sometimes they literally can't handle that many customers, or sometimes they just kind of get,
They're like,
they
why do we
rest on
need to
their
do anything?
laurels.
They're coming
Yeah,
anyway. Yeah.
yeah, we're not gonna try. And the quality inevitably goes down. And our little gelateria near our house, we just noticed that they've opened a location somewhere else, and we're like, uh-oh. Uh-oh. Does this mean they're getting so popular that, they're having to open multiple locations? Is the quality going to go down? So
Mm-hmm.
that does happen. So sometimes if you're like a couple of years late on the trend, it's not good anymore.
Yeah,
So
well, I
consider that
mean,
as
we've had
well.
this quandary with our very own, because when we take people on the Roman adventure this November from the 1st to the 7th, in case you want to come with us, we give them a booklet of like, here's some great places so that you're never blind in whatever neighborhood you're in. You always know where a good restaurant is because we've been to these restaurants, we've scoped them out. However, there is one restaurant that we put in there from the very beginning, which is one that everybody always wants to go to because it was Anthony Bourdain's Restaurant X. The one he said was in Rome, but he didn't want to give you the name of it because it was going to ruin the restaurant. And so he talked about it on his show, but he would not tell you where it was. Now, watching that show, recognized the square that he was in. And we went down and found where Restaurant X was because he shows the exterior of it, but it is tucked away in Trastevere. So if you don't know Trastevere, you're not going to just happen upon it. It's tucked in a little side pocket outside of a church. And we recognized it and went and tried it out when I was living in Rome, and it was great. And then when Tiffany and I were putting the tour together, we were like, let's put Restaurant X in there because people love Anthony Bourdain, and they'd be like, oh, I'm eating at a place Anthony Bourdain loved. Well, for the last year or two, our guests have gone there, putting as their number one place that they want to go when they read through the book we give them, and have reported back that it was not good. And we were like, oh. And so then you and I were saying, well, what's our responsibility here? Because people want to go to where Anthony Bourdain recommended. But now for 2 years in a row, people are like, it just wasn't really that good. So we're now considering for this year removing it from the booklet because, like you said, the standard has fallen. And even as flashy and fun as it is to come across Anthony Bourdain's name in a booklet, maybe it's not worth it anymore,
Yeah, it's been a long time. It's been a long time since he made that review. I mean, I'm probably 20 years now. So
Yeah.
a lot can happen at a restaurant in 20 years.
Yep, that's
It can
so true.
change hands entirely. You know what I mean? It can go completely different management.
That's right. Well, I can say that there is a restaurant in Seattle that is so good that has not been discovered yet. I love the guy that owns the place. It's a breakfast place. I tell people to come here all the time, and he's very appreciative of that. But I have that part in my heart and soul where I'm like, okay, I need to tell people about this place. Otherwise, it will not succeed as a restaurant.
Yeah.
If people don't start spreading the word. But at the same point, you're like, this place is amazing, and I can walk in at any moment and sit down, And it's tough.
Situation.
It's tough, but it's so good that you're just like, you know that at some point it's gonna hit. Somebody with power will walk in there, and people will discover it, and that'll be great for him, but terrible for me. Should I tell the name of that place? Maybe I should.
I mean, you might not. I mean, it's not like you're not Stanley Tucci, so.
That's true. I'm gonna tell our listeners. This is a
Okay.
breakfast place. It's a waffle place. I know waffle places are kind of trendy right now in the US. At least they are in Seattle. It's called A Lamb's Quandary, which is a strange name. A Lamb's Quandary. And it is a waffle Korean fusion restaurant.
Oh my gosh, that is
Which
so
sounds so strange, but my goodness, the moment you taste what he makes, you'll be like, oh my goodness.
Okay, well,
This
next
is-
time I'm in Seattle, Katie, I want to go there with you.
Yes, I'll take you there if we can get in. All right. Well, I guess we'll leave it there. And go off the script this summer if you're going anywhere. And really go off the script and come with us to Rome in November.
Yeah,
November
then
1st
you won't need a
through the
script.
7th. Yeah, then you don't need a script. You don't need to plan anything. Do you want to tell them some of the things that we plan instead?
Oh my gosh, we do 5 walking tours, each one with either a different theme or in a different neighborhood. We see so many incredible places. We see medieval churches that you'd never find on your own. We see works of art. We see incredible architecture. We see art by some of the greatest artists who've ever lived, but that are hidden away in churches or small museums. We walk through some of the most characteristic and beautiful areas of the city, some of which are very low on tourists simply because they're slightly away from the big touristy sites. We do deep dives on places like Trastevere. We go to San Clemente, which is the 3-layer church where you just go down and down further and further back in history. We do so many amazing things. And this year, because our trip coincides with All Saints Day and All Souls Day, we're going to create a new tour that is sort of the dark side of Rome. Ghost stories, stories of death and deception and all sorts of tantalizing topics.
Yes, so much fun. And you really don't have to plan a thing because we will give you this booklet. So when you're wandering around on your own, you'll at least have some guidance. And we are not pointing you to where the people are standing in the lines. We're pointing you toward other wonderful places, though. Get in touch if you're interested. bittersweetlifepodcast@gmail.com. bittersweetlifepodcast@gmail.com. Or you can go to our website, thebittersweetlife.net, and read more about it there. All right, and we'll leave it there. And until next time, this is The Bittersweet Life. I'm Katie Sewell.
I'm Tiffany Parks.
Join us again. Bye. If you love this show, support it. For as little as $5 every month, you get to hear 2 bonus episodes and even say hello during upcoming meetups online. That's every month for as little as $5. Visit thebittersweetlife.net and click support to explore ways to pitch in to keep this show you love on the air.